Hey, you guys. It's Ali. It's nighttime, my time, y'all. So, um, pardon the darkness. I do have my camera on, but it's still dark in the room. Nothing I can do about that. That's the lighting. Um, but as promised, I wanted to come on live. Nothing I planned to do today worked with the setup. So we're just going to have to make do with this. I hate this. I know y'all can hear all of this fiddling, which drives me insane. See how I can get this lighting a little better, so you guys can actually see me. I don't look like a ghost. What's up? What's up? What's up? So I tried to do this on my laptop, but for whatever reason, it's not picking up. You guys are getting me at the end of the night. Pardon my crazy lookingness, but I wanted to do this live video. It's not one thing, it's another. All right. We're just gonna make do. You guys are just gonna have to say a ring of light in my glasses. I apologize. But that's the best I can do, y'all. Okay. So what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It is 9 o'clock my time. Yes, I am in Thailand. I can't see. I can't see. But if I put the glasses on, there's more of a glare. So we're gonna work it like this. Sorry, guys, that you guys are getting the nightfall version. So it's not studio. But I wanted to just do this video because it keeps popping up when I think about it, and I just posted my video about Santa Marta and Cartagena. And so this video, I'm going to tell you about my close encounter with violence in in Colombia. And I hate to say it like that because I'm not a I don't like what do you call it? When people kind of generalize a place. So I'm not going to generalize. I'm going to tell you about a specific place and two incidents that happened, and kind of the truth and where the responsibility lies and all that kind of stuff. I see people talk about Colombia all the time, and it actually almost was a deterrent for me because you hear so much about it. But I should have learned my lesson because I heard the same thing about Mexico, specifically Mexico City, and went there, and it was the complete opposite. I mean, I know things can happen, but it was one of the most beautiful cities that I have been to, and thank God I just happened to just have time to explore. Otherwise, I would never have known. I would never have known, you guys. And so there's one of the reasons why I've kind of put off having doing this particular video talking about what happened when I was in Santa Marta, Colombia. Um, One of the four cities I stayed in. I also was in Medellin. I don't know if it's Medellin. I don't, depends on who's saying it. Cali, I was in, and I also was in Cartagena. And I share my comparison of Santa Marta and Cartagena on a video on my YouTube. So if you guys want to get the ins and out, because I don't want to deter you, because I will put it right out here in the beginning that I would move to Colombia. Colombia is on my short list. Like, let's say I have to um, be in the Americas somewhere, and I need to be close proximity to the States, or, I need to be on, the Central Standard Time Zone. I would pick Colombia over. I haven't been to a lot of places. Let me be honest. I've only been to Belize, Ecuador, Colombia, now Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras for a hot second, but not long enough to make any. Oh, in Mexico, and to make any large determinations or anything like that. And so, out of those that I Colombia is very high on my list of places that I would actually consider moving, y'all. And I'm so surprised, and I think that's kind of been like my deterrent from sharing this, because I don't like sensationalization, sensationalizing, yes, sensationalizing, these stories, and because you hear it all the time. And I think right before I went to Colombia, there was, apparently a big content creator, YouTuber guy was unalived, killed in Colombia. And I was watching the video of somebody else telling the story, and it was, the infamous stories about men um, having things happen. I was gonna say being robbed and hurt otherwise and stuff like that, and how bad Colombia is, and be safe and this, that, and the other. And so I'm gonna talk about the two incidents, but I'm also going to kind of lay in on some of the truths, the things that I know, considering I was there, and I was there solo. Okay, so let me just make sure that I can see comments when they pop up. It looks like I'm live. So, yeah, it looks good. All right, so I'm gonna turn it a little bit this way. You guys get the curtain that way. All right, so I'm gonna move over this way. Okay, so it actually looks better on camera, on the live camera, than it does on my camera. Thank goodness. Some really loud noise back here. I don't know what that was. All right, so anyway, you guys. Okay, so let me just start off by telling you I'm not a storyteller. Um, I'm not a good storyteller. I will tell a story, and I'm going to tell it in my Ollie fashion. So don't expect it to be like journalistic style storytelling, or, some sort of writer style storyteller, because I don't do that well. But I want to share two incidents that happened to me, and one of them, the second one, the one that happened directly to me, where I was the person that was being attacked. That one really, it was like a message, and I was like, okay, I got it, right? All right, so the first one, so Santa Marta, if you guys don't know, is a coastal city in Colombia. It's on the north side, and a lot of people retreat there if they're going to places like Minca, if they're doing natural tours and, spas, and, kind of shutting off from the rest of the world. A lot of people go to Santa Marta, and in my other video, you'll hear what just some tidbits and things that I share about my experience when I was in Santa Marta, my experience in Cartagena, and then my overall pick. So go to that video and check that out. And so, like I said, I don't want this to deter your decision, but I just want to share two incidents that did happen to me, because I still think that even though I share what I consider to be real situations that happen, or what happens every day. I just live regular life. Like, my life is not really exciting when I travel because I'm living it as just like a regular person. So I get up, I may go to the grocery store, I may go for a walk, I may go to the beach, I may not leave my housing area, especially if I'm in a place for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, something like that. I might not leave every day. And so it's like not always like this, like, ooh, awesome, like, you know, touristy kind of excitement every single day. And, all right, hold on. I put my glasses on so I can see. I disagree. You're a great storyteller. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Hey, we gonna see. We gonna see. Because I'm gonna be just animated on this, y'all. And Boo Boo Gang. Hey, considering visiting long term there, do you go on the digital nomad visa? For Colombia, no. I actually, when I was there last year, I just went on the regular 90-day visa. So, I have not explored the digital nomad visa that they just turned on. But I will tell you, Colombia is definitely on the high list of places to check out for that. But if you have a U.S. passport, we get 90 days, and then all you got to do is leave and come back. I don't think there's, I don't even think there's a limit to how often you can come, but I'd have to check that. Don't quote me on it, okay? But okay, so let me share with you guys a little bit, paint a little picture. I was in Colombia last year from end of October through the end of December, basically January 1. I think I left and went to Costa Rica, and I was just doing my America's tour. Actually, I had to come back to the States, and then as soon as I was finished with business in the U.S., I immediately headed down to Belize because I was going to do some business transaction kind of situation there. And then I just kept going from there. So from Belize, I went down to Panama for a few days. And then I had a friend who was in Ecuador. And I was like, well, it's a perfect time for me to stop through Ecuador. I was going to go to Galapagos Islands, which that's a whole nother conversation in itself, because it's one of those things like right now you can only get there if you go through Ecuador. And then before I was heading to, I didn't really have a plan. I just knew, well, since I'm down here, let me go ahead and go to I'm sorry, Colombia. And I will tell you, I was a little wishy-washy on it. Like, I literally was like, oh my gosh, should I go? Should I go? Y'all. And this is just, I'm just gonna share. I went to Cali first because everybody was like, go to Bogota, go to Medellin first. You'll like that better. It's a little bit cooler, and I was like a little put off from that. And everybody was like, Cali is inland. It's warm there, but it's the salsa capital of the world. And I was like, okay, let's check it out. But I don't want to be landlocked. I didn't really want to be landlocked, but I was in Ecuador, and so I was on the beach pretty much every day anyway. So I was like, let's try it out. Y'all, I went for 1 week. I stayed a whole month in Cali. And I walked everywhere. So I'm just setting the stage. I walked at night. I wish I could like run my videos while I'm talking. I walked during the day, I walked at night, I walked 45 minutes, I walked through the neighborhoods. I'm trying to think how many times I even caught a taxi, because they didn't really have Uber there. Not where I was. I was in like the old historical district area, and then I moved to like the Rosa area, so the red area, not red district, not that, but like the red area. That's what they call it, the Rosa Florosa area, which is more local. And I ended up staying there for 3 more weeks. And so anyway, that was fun. Then I went to Medellin, and I was there for a couple of weeks, and then my brother popped in, so on and so forth. And then it was like, all right, I want to go to the coast. I want to check out a couple cities in the coast, and I was really, really persuaded, push, push, push. You're gonna love Santa Marta. Go to Santa Marta. Go to Santa Marta. It's more grown up. You're gonna blah 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 blah. I know you've been in East Africa with expenses in Colombia, some similar to Kenya. Let me say. Let me think about that. Um, so let me. That's a good question. Because I started keeping track of like my expenses for all the cities, and I actually do want to publish that information once I get it put together a little bit better. Um, every city. So I always struggle when somebody asks me like a country question. I hesitate a lot because there's so many answers because every city is different. And so there are very few places that you go to that don't have any cities. Like if I say Singapore, I really just mean Singapore because there is no other city except Singapore. But when you say Kenya, I literally, my mind went to, okay, I was in Diani Beach, I was in Nairobi, I was in Lamu, I was in Shella, I was in Malindi, I was in Watamu, and I was in Mombasa, and I'm just sitting here going, okay, wait a minute, which one? So you have a plethora of like different levels. And so I would say comparably from a so the apartment I stayed in Medellin, so on average 50, 60, 70 a night. Yeah, comparable across, I think. They're very similar in price, and Colombia may actually be a little bit cheaper. But again, it depends. You could go to Nairobi and it's cheaper in Nairobi, but again, that's inland, which is similar to what you'll find in Colombia. And of course, this was last year, and I was in East Africa in 2021. But what I normally do, which is what I'm doing right now, a little searching to figure out where I'm going to go after this, is I always just kind of go and just pull up the map and just look at a range of apartments, or typically apartments, but or hotels. If I'm only going to be staying for a couple of weeks, I'll stay in a hotel for a couple of weeks. But if I know I'm going to be there for 3 weeks to ongoing, I try to find an apartment or a studio, and I just look at the map and look at the prices just to see, and that kind of gives you a gauge of what the price points are going to be. So you can kind of do a comparison like that, pull up like booking.com or Agoda. Agoda is typically cheaper than any of them, and just do a comparison. Just like open up the entire map and put in the time frame that you want to go there, and then just scooch the map over to Kenya, and you can do like a raw comparison like that. That's a great question. Thank you. Okay, so that's kind of like my hit of the 4 cities I was in Colombia. And so I walked around each of them. I walked around Medellin by myself. I daytime, nighttime, but nighttime, it's the right time. I was there. I was smart. Like I didn't put myself in unnecessary danger, so to speak. Like I'm an intelligent kind of solo traveler. At least I was till I got to Santa Marta, right? And so let me kind of phrase this properly, because um, I don't want it to come across as, it was my fault, and but I did play a part in, how they say in insurance, you physically were there, so part of it got to be your fault, and I'm going to take onus in the end to some of the things that happened. But one day, this is the first incident that happened. This is the first time, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like this. And the girl that I was hanging out with, it was the first day that we actually met, and we went inland. We were hanging out at an area in the old quarter, how do they call it, old town, old quarter area in Santa Marta. And it was like these, really cool streets. I think in one of my videos I show it a little bit, all these restaurants, and I think that's the first day we met. If not, it was like the second day. I can't remember. But anyway, we were sitting and eating. And this incident, like we both, like she had to go inside because it was so traumatizing for her. Like she couldn't even watch it. And I'm gonna tell you what really kind of threw me for a loop as it was happening. Um, so we're sitting and eating, and we're at one of the restaurants that has the seating outside, or you can go inside. And we're just at this point probably having drinks or something and talking. And a guy came by, and he looked like he could be, homeless or displaced or something. And he kind of stooped on the wall a little bit away, but he was still like in the restaurant row area, and he kind of stooped on the wall and just was sitting there, and you kind of look. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. When you see somebody that looks like, I mean, it was weird. He just kind of came and like just plopped right there on the wall. And it's one of those kind of alley things, how they have the smaller, more narrow streets. It reminds you a lot of being in Spain. Go figure, because Colombia is was, I don't want to use I don't know if the real term is colonized, but it was founded, so to speak, from Spanish colonies, from Spaniards. And so anyway, it has that look and feel. So anyway, he's sitting, and we're just talking, but I'm very conscious of people, especially if somebody is behind me and I don't feel comfortable with that person, whatever it is. And so I kind of just kept my eye on him, and he was just sitting back behind us on this wall. And then out of the blue, this dude comes down the alley street situation thing with a stick, and he's yelling. He's speaking in Spanish. The friend I'm with, she speaks Spanish very well. I don't know if she understood everything he was saying, but he really didn't need to, because he was upset and he was yelling at the guy. And he literally he was like, when it happened, it literally, like I feel like it's happening right now. It was right behind us. So like, it was closer than that wall is. My back wall. It was closer than that. And he walks up and he starts beating him with this 2x4, 4x4, whatever it was. Like, you could hear it hitting him. And the guy is like, he has nothing to protect. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if he stole something. He had a growth on him as well. And you could like really see it. I can't remember where it was. If it was on his hand, arm, foot, something like that. It was, and the guy was just beating him. And we immediately like got up, right, and went inside the restaurant. And what caught my attention, what was almost more disturbing than he was being beat in the street in broad daylight, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, is everybody came, all the people were coming out of the restaurants, the owners or staff, laughing. Everybody was laughing at this guy being beaten in the streets. And I was just like, I don't know if I was more traumatized from the response of like the ridicule, and nobody went to his aid. And maybe they knew this guy, honestly looked like he was homeless, and maybe he had taken something, I don't know. But the guy was yelling at him, at saying something, and just hitting him broad daylight with this 2x4, just hitting him with this wood. And the sound hurt. And I was just, how you just cringe, because it was like, oh my God, it was like right there. Okay. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I have never, trying to think, out of all the places I've been, have I ever seen anyone get beat in my traveling career? In my traveling career, I don't think I have. I don't think I have. And so, needless to say, that was traumatizing. That was probably um, like because my brother had left. He ended up coming with me to Santa Marta, as our birthdays are in close proximity to one another. And we usually get together, somehow cross paths in our travel journey, somehow in December. And he flew out to Colombia, and of course, we had a fantastic time. And then he left, and I continued on my journey. So he was gone when this occurred. And so it did shake us. And it was interesting because the girl that I was hanging out with, she came to Santa Marta, and she immediately felt like the energy in the place was like, not for her. And she was like, literally, the only reason I'm staying or here or whatever is because, I met you, and vice versa. It was like, but I knew I was staying because my next destination was already planned. I knew I was going where I was going January 1st. So I kind of had to stay in the, stay in the vicinity at this point. Um, and so, yeah, that happened. And then, maybe 3 days later, 2 or 3 days later, we decided to hang out at night. Check out that same area. It's kind of opens up, and you can walk around, and there's bars and restaurants and all of that. And we end up, we're in a woman's Colombia, Belize, Mexico group on WhatsApp, and we, ended up chatting with someone who lives in the Santa Marta area, and decided to meet up for drinks and hang out one night. So this is incident number 2. Um, I know you. See, I'm sorry. Most people don't respect homeless anywhere. How is the communication for you there in English? Oh, so let me answer that before I get on to number 2. In Santa Marta, everybody spoke Spanish. Very. Let me clarify that. So everybody speaks Spanish in Santa Marta. Like, it's more Spanish than anything. But in those streets, in that old, I've been to so many places. Like, I don't know if I'm saying Old Quarter. I know Walled City is in Cartagena. I think it's Old Quarter or Old City. In that area, it's very touristy, and so a lot of the store owners, staff, and stuff like that, a lot of them speak some English, but for the most part, everybody speaks Spanish. So it's helpful to practice some of your Spanish, and even they understand you. But you can't have like full blown conversations with with everybody there. But there are quite a few people. We did a bike tour, and our bike tour guide spoke fantastic English, and it was awesome too because he was willing to exchange and share as much information as we wanted because it helped him practice his English. And so I find for me, like, that has been one of the most amazing aspects of traveling, and not necessarily knowing the language, but being able to meet people who can, you know, take advantage of what you have to offer, as well as you taking advantage of what they have to offer. And I've had it pretty much almost everywhere I've gone. One of probably, this is off topic, but one case where it was like the best was when I was in Tanzania, and I ended up going up to Tanga. And I was, out exploring, doing my thing by myself, solo, walking around, figuring out how to get around, because they also didn't have Uber or any ride share. They had the tuk-tuk, so you just basically find somebody, you know where to go in these little areas, and people are parked, and you can grab one, or you can grab the colectivo. We call them colectivos. In Mexico, they're the same type of situation. It's a van that rolls through, and you just jump on, you hand us some coins, and you jump on situation. I don't know what they call them, I can't remember, but the little van buses, and they run all over town, so those are prevalent there. But there was this guy that I would pass every day when I would walk down. His name was Barnabas. And Barnabas spoke very good English because he had been to the States, he had served, he had gone to college. I think he had served in some military um, operation, but he was Tanzanian. But he had gone to university outside of Tanzania, and then he was in the United States for a bit. So he was very well versed. And I would go and just sit, and he was just like, Ali, if you ever want to just come and just sit with me. And I literally, this guy's probably 70, upper 70s maybe, um, and just have some of the best conversations. And it was nice because he would teach me things, and I had already taken. Let me think about this. That was Tanzania, so um, I can't remember if that was before or after I had already taken some Swahili lessons from a student, but he was a professor, very young, 20-ish years old, but he was a professor. And I took some Kiswahili from him. And so I knew some things, a lot of stuff I can't remember now, but um, a lot of places that you go to, if you start off in touristy areas, and when I say touristy, I mean like it could still be local, but they're like tourist hubs and spots like restaurants and things like that where you can kind of network with other travelers and expats, which to me, I like a little bit of a balance. I love to be in local spots and stuff, and because you have better local pricing for clothing and food and um, fruit carts and things like that. But I also like to be in a mix with people who I can have some conversations with and learn, from them, because our lifestyles are a little bit more similar. And just commune with people. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to have a conversation. I can't talk online by myself all the time. So English is used, but not that much. But you can easily get by. It's one of those places you can definitely get by. All right. So incident number 2. This is going to be the doozy, the one where it could have ended. I could have ended up hurt. And so even to this day, like, I cringe when I think about it. And I'm clutching my hands. All right, so anyway, I ended up with the same girl hanging out. Like I said, we linked up with someone else in the group and decided to hang out, and we ended up meeting up with one guy who was there for 3 or 4 months, and then his roommate or coworker was a Colombian who was our tour guide technically for the night. So he took us all around local stuff. Like, we were sitting, how one of the things that you'll see in a lot of places, Mexico City as well, is like these corner shops and convenience stores. You see this a lot in Asia too. Convenience stores, and they have tables sitting outside because people buy drinks and the food and stuff from the convenience mart, and they sit outside. It's like it becomes a little restaurant. Well, that's how you drink and stuff like that. So we just went to a place. He told somebody it was like 5 of us, and yeah, 5 of us, and they just pulled out one of those little resin plastic tables and some plastic chairs, and we plopped down and got the local, God, what was the name of the liquor we were drinking? It's like moonshine, but we got a bottle of that, and we just sat, we were chatting and talking, and then we walked up and down the streets, and they had like the different food carts. We got some I know they had the salchipapas, or is that how you say it? Basically it's like a hot dog with all this stuff on it, or whatever meat. I think usually it's a hot dog. But I got the like a bean tortilla, bean and cheese, something like that, off the street corner thing, and it was like 1 peso. I swear. Probably 10 pesos. But it was really cheap, and we walked around, and then we ended up in this courtyard. I'm leading up to it, y'all. I'm leading up to it. So we're in this courtyard, because then we were looking for oh no, okay, I'm sorry, I missed a part. So we're going around, we're in the old city quarter area, and it's a, I don't know, Friday night or Saturday night. So people were out, music was jamming, and they knew of some places where it's salsa and stuff and karaoke. So we walked by this one spot and there was karaoke. We're like, oh, bet, let's go in. So we go in, it's like really dark, and they're all sitting proper lined up in their tables. And we found a spot up on the second floor, and went up there. And a couple of the folks in my group went down and did karaoke. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But we were secluded. We really didn't mix and mingle with anybody there. But we did that, and then they wanted to find a kind of club situation, which I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I don't really need to do a club. But if y'all want to pop into one, cool. And then I'm probably gonna bounce. And at this point, I think it was probably close to 11 p.m., maybe 12, but I think it was really close to 11 p.m. And so they went up and scoped out this one place where everybody parties. They got multiple rooms, and you could kind of see it from the street, and everything's like lit up and people going in. And I was like, yo, and I'm definitely the oldest one in the group. And I literally was like, I like to have a good time, but I do know when it's not my thing, right? Like I'm cool. But I was like, cool, check it out. But we didn't. I didn't go in. I stayed downstairs, and then we ended up just walking around. And what they have is they have all of these like food truck kind of carts, but they're liquor. So you could just walk up to one and just buy drinks, and then they put a table out for you. You sitting in the courtyard drinking, and then this group of musicians come up and they're playing accordions and all this stuff. So then we dancing, and they've got the drums and all that. And so that's what we're doing. It's like 1 o'clock, 1 a.m., and it's what we're doing all night. And drinks are cheap. We're hanging out with the locals at this point in the middle of a plaza, So that was nightlife. Now, keep in mind, and this is what I was trying to think of last time, that particular area doesn't have ride share. So I was like, okay, I'm not that far, but I'm not that close either. And like I had said to you guys before, I try to be very smart and not put myself in harm's way. Um, but in either case, whether it's walking or getting in a taxi or whatever, because I had another incident happen in Senegal years before, but it wasn't like a violent thing. It was me just being overly precautious and like, wow, this is how this kind of works. I don't know if I've ever shared that story, but so anyway, I was a little hesitant about just jumping in a taxi at that point in time, because their taxis, it's just really weird. Like, I felt like I was more uncomfortable getting in a car, even if it was marked as a taxi, than I was walking. And so the girl that I was meeting, like I told everybody, look, okay, you guys, I'm ready to go. It's been fun, nice meeting everybody. I'm ready to roll up out this joint. I look at, pull up on the map, and I'm like, it's really a straight shot. We can get there from here. She's on my way. She's if we walk, she's gonna make a left and I'm gonna make a right and go around, and I'm literally about 3 blocks from my apartment. Now it's 2 a.m. in the morning, so that's the first. I should tell you something. They tell you ain't nothing good happening after midnight, And I'm a big proponent of what's the point of being out after midnight, like it really is, not necessary. And then I went to Vietnam and hung out with people till 5 a.m. in the morning, but I was in like a good group of people, and it was so safe. I would walk home at 11:30 at night by myself, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So it kind of just depends on the area, right? And you can kind of tell when there's other people out whether or not it's safe or okay for you to be out. And so as we're walking, it's deserted. The streets are deserted, it's quiet, ain't nobody driving up and down them, and I'm just like, okay, we do have street lights, and I'm conscious of the fact that this is not smart. A couple taxis went by me, but I was not like I couldn't tell if they were like legit. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you're right around the corner, you're right around the corner, you're right around the corner. I wasn't right around the corner, but I was close. So after she and I split and she went her way, she was a couple of doors down. And I still had to go like down 2 blocks and over a block. And so I'm walking and I'm literally, y'all, I am at the corner, I'm catty corner from my apartment. And let me set you up. I'm in an older apartment building, so I'm not in a high rise, so we ain't got check the doorman or nothing like that. And on top of that, like we have a gate key. So we have a key that gets us into a gate before it gets us into the building. And get this, there's 2 keys, 2 gate doors. The key you have may not open the front, it may only open the side. So mine only opened the side, and it was darker on the side street, not the front street. Now there's restaurants and bars on the street, but everything was closed. Everything was closed. But it's a neighborhood too, so if I scream, somebody would hear me. All right, but I haven't gotten to that part yet. Cause I'm like catty, like I'm coming up the street and I'm like, I'm almost there, I'm almost there. I'm like fast paced walking, I'm looking behind me, I'm checking, I'm like, all right, you're almost there, you're almost there. Cause I know not entirely intelligent thing to do. Y'all, I get, like I said, I'm like almost to the corner, which would put me catty corner to my building. Like I got it's a couple businesses, like a little mart, and then a restaurant, and then my apartment building, which is only 3 stories high, but I do have to walk around to the other side, which is like covered by trees and all that. And then the beach is like right there, right? And this guy is walking and he's drunk, he's loud, um, and he's speaking in Spanish. And I've seen this guy. I've seen him riding on his bike before because I've been staying at this apartment for probably 3 or 4 days at this point. And I've seen him. I've seen him around. So I catch like the familiarity of him, but I didn't understand what he was saying, and he was coming at me, right? So I'm walking and I see him coming towards me. I don't know what he's saying. I just stopped. And I just stopped because I'm like, I'm just let him pass. Just let him pass. I'm minding my own business. Now they say don't look him in the eye, but you're looking at him because you want to know where he's going, because now I'm in flight or fight mode. And I'm like, this he's really tall guy, skinny, but really tall, and he's definitely on something or drunk, one of the two, but upset and berated at me, berating me and yelling and all of that. And I don't know what he's saying, but he's upset. He's upset about something, and I happen to be there, and I'm the only person there. And of course, there's no cars going down the street. There's nothing. There's nobody outside. And I'm like, can you run fast enough? Like, I'm trying to think of what would I, at this point, what would I do? And I know if I go back down the street that I'm on, there's a it's a Hilton or a Holiday Inn, but one of the high-rise hotels, and it's not that far, right? And so, like I'm thinking in my head, like the logic kicks in, and I'm just like, because I can't jump this wall. I can try, but I don't know what's on the other side of said wall. And I'm not gonna run to my left because that puts me more in town, kind of secluded. Whereas where I am is more touristy. It's just more residential than the old quarter area. And then the next thing over is the beach, right? So either go back where I came from, so all of this, and I stop, and instead of him just crossing the street and going where he's going, he starts walking towards me. And so I'm backing up, and I was like, yo, I don't even remember. I feel like I said, leave me alone or something like that. And whatever it was, like, he was even more set off. And it was almost like he was laughing. He was laughing at the fact that he could see that I was scared of him, right? And all I was is like, God, I just want to get around the corner. And then I'm sitting here like, now I got to get the key out, right? And get the key in dark because I can't get the gate open. I can laugh at it now, y'all. But I was in terror, but I was just like, okay. Um, Out of all these streets, everything is raggedy. If I need to pick up a brick, a piece of the sidewalk, because that's ultimately what it was going to be. You know, whatever I need to do to fight, right? And I'm one of the people that ain't gonna be like, I didn't hear her scream. Oh yeah, you heard me scream. Oh, I was we kicking and fighting and everything, but you don't know until you're in that space. And all I kept thinking is I knew I should have been out here, but then it was like, anyway, that's beside the point. I be getting off track. That's why I'm a bad storyteller, because I just like I relive the whole thing. And so anyway, as the suspense is building, I'm getting up to the corner. Now he's passed and he's walking kind of in the street but on his side. So I crossed over because my building's on the other side. He's on this side, but he's turning around yelling at me, still yelling at me. And I'm just pausing and he starts to come across the street and I just stop, right? I just stop. And now at this point, like I know, like I'm like my anxiety and my fight or flight has kicked in because like I'm like there's nothing over here, like there is nobody out. um and I didn't want to start screaming to at that point because he was still far enough away. Like I was the next the next door over from my building, but I had to go around. And I was like, if you have to scale this wall, can you scale this wall? That's why I'd be like, yo, listen, y'all, we always got to be ready. We got to be ready to run or whatever it is that we got to do. We got to be able to do it, right? Won't put myself in this position again, y'all. And people can judge me and, do whatever. I made it out alive. But as I'm walking, whoo, I'm at this point, I am focused. I'm walking fast. I'm not running. Because you know how you can tell a person is triggered? It was like the more I did to stay away from him, the more agitated he got, right? And so I was like, just look forward and just walk, right? Fast walking. Terrified though. I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified. I don't know that anybody knows the story except the girl that I was with because she came over the next day and I pointed him out. Terrified, like shaking. Didn't realize I was shaking until I got in the apartment. But he was a little bit further than this wall because it's a whole street, right? And I'm on the sidewalk and I'm not looking at him. I'm just like, let me just get across because at this point I have to make a left and go down this kind of darker street. And if he follows me, anything can happen. And so I'm like looking around, what can I pick up, right? Within 2 seconds, all I hear was right behind my head and the glass hit the wall. He had taken his 40 ounce and thrown it. His trajectory, and it was probably because I was walking so fast. Had I not have been walking that fast, it would have hit me in the head, in the face, whatever, right? He literally threw his bottle at me. He threw the bottle at me, and it was like almost like right on point. I mean, it went right behind my head, hit the wall, and he was laughing, right? And he was drunk, and he was still yelling out obscenities or whatever. And I'm sure people could hear him at this point. I don't know. I don't care. And that is what, like, whoo, like I don't even remember what I saw on the ground. But I was scoping for anything if I needed to pick up something and like, hit him with it or do whatever. And I got around the corner because at this point I'm at my building, right? I'm at my building, but I can't get in through the front because the day before I tried the key just to see, oh, can I come in through this front rather than walking around to the side? And I found out I couldn't. So thank God I had tried that the day before so I didn't waste any time trying to unlock the door. And so I go around the side, get the gate open, which I don't even remember if it was locked, because a lot of times people leave it unlocked and there's a big sign saying please lock this. And I made sure I locked it, but it's one of those gates that when you open it, like somebody could still reach through, because it's like a, design kind of gate, steel gate thing. So I locked it. I could still see him like walking, and I wasn't thinking about him anymore. I was just thinking, get inside the building. And so I get inside the building, get upstairs, get in and lock my door and all of that. And I'm kind of like looking up, and I'm like, I'm shaking and all of this. And all I'm thinking, what could have happened had he have hit me? And, what would have happened? And so, that incident happened. By the grace of God, I was not hurt. I was not hit. I mean, it was like, how you can feel something like it didn't hit me, but he narrowly missed me, and that was nothing but the grace of God. Because you don't want things like that to happen anywhere, and especially not when you're traveling. But I also know for a fact that as I was walking in that space, that it didn't feel right, and I was uncomfortable in it, and I was like, I'll never do that again. Was that part of the deterrent, those two incidents that kind of turned me off from the city? Yeah. Not from the entire country. No, I still love Colombia. But this was the first time that I've ever experienced anything like that. And I mean, I've been out. I've been out late. I've been in tuk-tuks going to neighborhoods that don't have street signs and stuff like that late at night. And and I felt like, okay, this was my wake-up call. You've gotten too lax and too comfortable, and feeling like you you could just, like, you out here, you good. But I felt it. Like, I felt just being in that city, I felt that level of discomfort just in general, one of which I did not feel at all in Cartagena, even though Cartagena is supposed to be so bad. Didn't feel that at all. Didn't feel that in Cali. And I was walking at night. Thing that scared me the most in Cali was the rats at night, because they would be like, whoo, child. So yeah, I was quite a bit traumatized and shaken up by it. And the next day, I was out and I saw him. He was cleaned up, sober, walked down the street, and I had walked out to meet my friend, because she came to hang out with me for the day until she had to check out of her room. Her flight was leaving that day. And I called her that night when I got into my apartment and told her what happened. So when she came over, he was literally walking down the street. And you know how you could tell a person remembers, but they don't quite remember? And so I didn't really stare him down because I had like another 4 days there. But I looked at him long enough for him to know that I was the one that he had that he attempted to harm violently the night before. I call it violence because he did throw a huge bottle and it completely shattered. He threw that at me for I don't know what reason. I didn't do nothing to him. I didn't say anything to him except, just let me by or whatever. I can't remember, something like that, or leave me alone or something. It was one of the two. But he was really upset. And it was weird because when he looked at me, it was almost that look of like shame or whatever, right? I had no more issues, and I saw him a number of times. But of course, I never was out again until 2 a.m. over there. Because I didn't need to be at that point. But those were the two incidents that happened in Santa Marta within days of each other. And I would never say, don't go to the country because of those incidents, because that could literally happen anywhere. when you know, get people who can't handle their liquor or whatever it is that they're consuming and indulging in. But I will say that you know, I will pay more attention to the whole, you know, um, being mindful of the space I'm in, because all spaces aren't the same. And that first notion of whether or not you're comfortable, you know, listening to yourself and that vibe that you're getting, or whatever, the little pricklies and stuff. I mean, like as I was walking, like I felt it, and I was just like, okay, you're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there. Never could I have imagined. I mean, it was like probably the longest 3 minutes, and it probably was only like 3 minutes of my life, but it happened so fast, right? Like it happened so tremendously fast. Anything could have happened, y'all. And so those are the two incidents that I was planning on sharing about my encounters with violence in Colombia. And like I said, yeah, we do hear a lot. We hear stories all the time about, you know, people, things happening. You know, you hear a lot of the guys' stories because they're, you know, out, and I always say, you know, you got to be mindful of the company that you're keeping, and when you're in these spaces doing things, and you know, when you're in the, just being mindful of the company that you keep, and the atmosphere and the environment that you're in. If you're in an environment where people are, you know, doing a little bit of this, that, and the other, you have to be mindful of things that can happen. So I'm mindful of things that can happen, and I'll make sure that I don't put myself in that situation again. Ooh, I'm gonna see. It's like she doesn't know this. I just thought about that. You never want your parents to find out that something could have happened while you out in these streets, and they be worrying about you. I'm good, the grace of God. And so one of the things that I was gonna share as a little tip, and this is for like people who are out and about, and a lot of people go to Bogota to kick it. And apparently that's like more of a party city. I have not been yet, but I did hear from some regular people that they actually really like Bogota, and you can be there without being in that big party scene and stuff. But you hear a lot of people talk about Bogota and how you know, be careful, and this can happen and that can happen and stuff like that. One of the things that I'll share, um, when people talk about getting robbed, like their uh, bank cards or debit cards or whatever, somebody comes in and they get all their information, or they can access and withdraw from their bank and stuff like that. So one of the things that I'm gonna say, I really strongly suggest people think about is not using the retinal password, or um, facial recognition passcode, because you could be passed out unless it's, I mean, even retinal, somebody can open your eye, or even fingerprint technology. Try not to use those. Try to use a passcode where you literally have to be awake, because you hear a lot about people being taken advantage of, people being drugged and things like that, and then somebody stealing, you know, their information because they can get into their phone, you know, using a fingerprint or whatever to access. Because once you're knocked out, I mean, like, I don't need you to talk to get into anything, to access your account. You hear about people saying that, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars were stolen and stuff like that. And stuff can happen. But what happens is people find a target, and they find, you know, people who are more susceptible in those situations. And just like my situation that happened, I was susceptible. Like, I was the only person out there, and I was, you know, I was by myself at 2 a.m. in the morning walking home, and the walk ultimately was probably 15 minutes, maybe. But that last 7 minutes that was by myself was was rough. And so when people know that they have, like, you know, they're in the, excuse me, they're in the kind of proximity of tourists or people who may not know an area or may not know everything that's going on. People take it. Sometimes people take advantage, and so to try to avoid some of those things, that's one of the things that I strongly suggest. And this was even before I thought about going to Colombia. I think I may have even done a video on it, and it was about change from using fingerprint and facial recognition technology and stuff like that. I mean, it's not going to help if somebody throws a bottle at your head like what happened to me. But if you find yourself in those situations where, I even know of, stories where people are like, people go out and party and do whatever and bring people back to their rooms and their hotels, and people get robbed and stuff like that. And it's so unfortunate when those things happen. So if you are going to be living in that kind of lifestyle and kicking it and doing all that kind of stuff, have like that backup, like that one person who ain't drinking, or if you're living that life, be in a place where you got a concierge. A lot of times nowadays they don't even let you bring people up to your rooms, but a lot of times you meet people in the hotels. You can meet people and they're already staying in your hotels. They already got a key code and a passcode. So be mindful. And so like places where there's a concierge, like they see you and they can watch your back a little bit. Some of my little tidbit tips for women. But in this particular case, I was in an apartment building, and I didn't know anybody. The person I was running from didn't even live there. And the cleaning staff, she didn't live anywhere near the building or anything like that. And so I was pretty much on my own should anything have happened. And I normally try to make sure that I'm, even if I'm walking or if I'm doing something, like I'm like, I use a lot of energy. Like I can tell if this, if it's something I shouldn't be doing. And I knew, like, even when I was with my friend walking, like I would, I was like, ugh, 7 more minutes, 7 more minutes, if I can make it. I had my map on. I was like, oh, I'm gonna cut. And I stayed on the main streets, which the main really broken down streets, but I stayed on those because I knew those at least had like the bigger high rises, the bigger hotels. I just had like that one last block by myself, with nothing there. Would you consider Colombia, what is that little heart? Colombia safe for family. I consider Colombia to be safe, right? Because families aren't gonna be out at 2 a.m. in the morning. I mean, and honestly, those incidents, I didn't have anything. I haven't really shared any of my footage or anything when I was in Medellin, and I loved Medellin. I loved Cali. I would say family friendly. Cartagena is great, but Medellin is awesome. They have like, I was in this area, there's a river, and they put up, I guess every year they do some sort of different movie or whatever, and they had Encanta. They had every character from the movie. I've never seen it, but everybody tells me, you should watch it, it's such a good movie. They had everything built out, and it was a lot, and it was all these lights, and everybody, I swear, everybody in Medellin was at this park area, and tons of family. They're very family oriented in the Southern Americas. Once you get past that Texas border, like people are just nicer. Like it's very communicable, communal. Um, in a lot of these places where they're really family oriented, like the seating and stuff is really for family and groups and things like that. So from a safety perspective, yeah, I would say Columbia is safe. Of course, you gotta just use better intelligence than I used that night. But again, okay, a lot. Sorry about that, you guys. The Wi-Fi or whatever kicked on. But a lot of the videos that I posted or shared, um, showing families in Santa Marta, like the beaches and stuff, were packed with tons of people out there. A lot of folks with their kids, and so it's very family oriented, but after about 11 o'clock, everybody, in certain neighborhoods, everybody's out with their families. Like where we started the night, it was just getting home, getting back to my space, which was away from the liveliness. Like if I would have had a place inside like the old town area, I would have been fine because of my hotel would have been right there. I would have just, but I was outside of it. Just like sometimes when it doesn't benefit to be so far away, right? Um, but yeah, I would consider Columbia to be safe for families. Um, Medellin, like I said, is a perfect option. It's just a little bit higher cost, but it is in that Kenya range. So depending on what neighborhood you stay in, I stayed in two places in Medellin. I stayed in El Poblado, which is like one of the most expensive areas, very touristy. Or expatty. I shouldn't say touristy. It's a lot of people passing through, but lots of apartments and stuff like that. A lot of locals that you'll run into over there, but it's just more expensive. And then you have an area that's just thinking about the map, a little bit south of that area. And then I stayed up in Conquistadores, something like that. Y'all know what I'm saying. I could see it in my head. Laureles, the Laureles, I say it wrong. It looked like Laurel S area. And that area was a little bit cheaper, more neighborhood style parks and stuff like that. And I loved it. I walked around there all the time, walked to the malls, walked for food. I was out at night by myself over there, no problems. Like it just was a different vibe. I'm telling you, Santa Marta just in general just rubbed me a little different, but I hear people who love it. But again, maybe these were two isolated incidents that just happened, but for whatever reason they happened in that city. So that city just ain't for me. It's just not for me. But yeah, I would live in Colombia for sure. I definitely would. I have not. There's Barranquilla. Excuse me, I was up early this morning. Now I'm just yawning all the time. Barranquilla, I think is the area. I haven't been over there yet, and that's another coastal town. I heard that it's a little bit less expensive there, but I don't know if it has, if it's as developed in terms of what there's access to. I know, there's always going to be restaurants. The El Rodadero area, which is, one of the big touristy beach hot spots there, is to me, I mean, I probably wouldn't live in that area, and it's overpriced, and it don't even look nice. I mean, but that's where everybody goes for touristy things, and it's one of those places like, it reminds me of like the outside of Kemah in Texas, outside of Houston area. Like it's like why? Like I wouldn't want to live over there. Maybe pop in and pop out. And then where I started in Los Posts, I think it is, Colorado's. area that is being built up, and that is really, really nice. But again, you got to have some sort of transportation because it's they're really just building it up, so there's not a lot to me in walking distance from the area that I was in. But that is that part, Los Post Colorados, is great for families. I think they have like so when you're we were in a high rise and we could see the ocean. We literally walk out on the balcony, the ocean was right there and the mountains were right there. So a lot of people are like, man, I want both. I want ocean life, I want hiking and mountain life. The coast of Colombia, the north coast of Colombia, perfect for that. It is perfect for that. So yeah, definitely will consider it. Those are my two incidents that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know if that's going to help anybody in any kind of way, except to just say stay on your P's and Q's, follow your first instinct, don't be out if you don't need to be out, and be comfortable enough with a ride share kind of situation, or taxi situation, so that you can get to and from your destination safely. So it's not always peaches and cream for me, and there's other things that have happened. I was talking to somebody last week, I think it was before I got here, and a lot of times I don't realize how many stories I have and how much experience I have and things that I've gone through, because it happens and I kind of just move on. Like with this thing, I never talked about it, and I was like I said, a little skeptical about even sharing it, because you put your information out there and talk about yourself privately, something that happened, and you leave yourself for scrutiny to be attacked in certain ways, or people get upset. Like one of my best videos is my video about safety in Egypt, and safety in different countries comes up quite a bit in my conversations, because as a solo traveler, solo woman traveler, solo black woman traveler, there are things that we experience or encounter that might be a little bit different than specifically males who are out doing some of the same things, or people traveling in groups, couples, families, so on and so forth. So our safety radar is a little bit different. So it is, that's what it is. It is what it is. Saw your message pop up. Oh, there it is. So weird. Are you buying onward tickets throughout South America, or is it like Africa where you can go do one-way tickets? So, ooh, that's a good question. So, let me think. When I was in Ecuador, I had to have an onward ticket, and yes, I do use onward ticket or Expedia. Right now, I think a lot of the other airlines, or not a lot, but like American Airlines, you can buy a ticket and get a full refund. I think Delta does it too. But for me, if you're just getting an onward ticket, so that you can, be allowed into the country, onward ticket is great. If you don't want to spend any money, just do Expedia. Expedia gives you 24 hours to cancel, so you can buy a cheap ticket just out of the country to the next country, and then once you get checked in and you're past security and all that good stuff, past check-in, because they really don't care to see it after that, you can go ahead and cancel it, or you wait until you land and then cancel it. That way 100% you're good to go. I've also bought onward tickets while I was sitting at the ticket counter, and it took because I forgot to get a ticket. And gosh, where was I? I'm trying to think. Was I in Ecuador at this point in time? Um, that's yes, that was. I was in Ecuador and I had to have the ticket. I ended up buying off of Wow. I bought a ticket on Wow, but Wow lets you change your ticket like over and over and over and over again without a charge, unless the ticket price is higher. And that's how I ended up flying from Quito to Colombia. I used an actual ticket that I bought instead of doing like onward ticket. But yeah, I bought it right when I was sitting at the desk, and everybody behind me had to wait. They allowed me to purchase it right then and there. They do want to see it. Let me think. Colombia, did I have to show anything? No. Hold on. Once I got to Colombia, I don't think I had to show anything. But I can go and possibly check to see if I have an onward ticket for that. I don't recall buying an onward ticket. I just know I had to have one when I was in Ecuador. Uh, when I landed into Quito from Panama. So you basically, what I normally check for that, I mean, if you just want to be on the safe side, but you don't want to keep spending $14 every time you do with onward ticket, just do Expedia or one of the airlines that you know you can get a full refund from. That's why I just say do Expedia, because Expedia offers a free 24-hour cancellation. So that's like the best way to do it. And you want to actually purchase the ticket, don't put it on hold, because it won't show up in the system. Because what they do is they go and they look to see if you actually show up as if your record locator shows up as an active ticket in the system when they check you in. So I don't know about every single country there, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's random. It depends on the person that you roll up on, whether or not they're going to ask you for that information. Probably should do like a list of places where I've had to use an onward ticket of some sort. That probably would be helpful. But yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for asking. All right, y'all. It is, what time is it? It's 10:14 my time. It looks like the view on the that you guys are seeing is kind of messed up a little bit there. So I apologize for the reception. Looks great on my side, but it looks a little grainy on the replay. But yeah, if you have any other questions, I will check back. Thank you, ladies, for anybody else that's on, because it seems like there's some other people on as well, for listening to my incidents that made me wake up and stop being so complacent and forgetting, safety first. Your life is valuable. But thank you for listening to my little replay of what happened there. But again, if you have Colombia on your mind to go to, please go. You will be pleasantly surprised. It is one of the almost one of the best countries that is so close to the United States. You're still on Central Standard Time zone. The cost of living is comparable and workable, especially if you're going to stay long term. It's much easier to find something and find something in your price range when you're doing a longer term rental there. And everything is just really comparable. Even with, like, say for instance, like Kenya, Nairobi has rideshare. They use Uber, and it's great and it's cheap. But you really won't find any of that on the coast. But you have access to motorbikes, the bodas and the bajajis. They call them bajajis or tuk-tuks in Kenya. I think they call them tuk-tuks in Kenya. But you have access to all of those pretty easy. Whereas in not Mexico, Colombia, they use Grab, Uber, and I think they use Cabify, if I'm not mistaken. And Grab, Uber, Cabify. There's one other one. There's one other rideshare that they use over there. But anyway, those are very comparable price wise. But Colombia just as a whole, I like Colombia over Panama. I wasn't in Panama very long, but I just didn't feel like I needed to stay much longer. But I keep hearing people talk about Panama City, this and that, and I was just like, Ecuador, I went to 7 cities in Ecuador, and one I loved, but it was inland, and it's one that's cold, like my toes were cold. But I don't like the cold, so nor was I prepared or packed for it. But the coast is beautiful. But Ecuador was not for me. It didn't have, like, I connected, like, I got cool people that I hung out with, locals and stuff there, and other expats, but I couldn't really get it, like, it didn't give me the energy. I landed in Cali, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get off here. I landed in Cali, Colombia, and as soon as I landed, like, my first night though, it took me 2 hours to get to a hotel, and I had to go and stay in another hotel. I couldn't find the place I was going to. Didn't get a SIM card before I landed, and the taxi driver didn't want to look at the phone to figure out where it was going, and he didn't speak good English. And that was this, but it was like a 1 a.m. another 1 a.m. situation. But nothing bad happened. He stayed with me until, I found a place to go to. He even pulled over on the side of the road on this residential street, and asked some people in the middle of the night to help us find this address, to find out that my Airbnb person didn't have their address listed properly. So, as soon as I hit Colombia and was in Cali, even with not getting to my place, and then the next day I couldn't get a taxi to save my life, and I was walking with my bag and everything. It was raining. I felt the energy when I got there. Like, I was like, this is it. This is it. So yeah, if you get a chance, check out Colombia, y'all. Please do. And keep your eye on your luggage. All right, y'all, I'm out of here. Click that subscribe button, that like button. Leave me a comment if you can. And click the notification bell, you guys. And we'll chat soon. Y'all know the drill. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair grease.